I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Silly Jedi, silly Jedi.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
Hello, what have we here?
Hello there.
At last! Where have you been?
Nice of you guys to drop by.
Ah, good. New acquisitions.
I don't know. I have a bad feeling about this.
Hey everybody, welcome to Jedi Toy Masters Star Wars Card Talk. We're back again. I'm Maurice from Jedi Toy Masters, and if you're not already doing so, please make sure you follow us on Instagram at Jedi Toy Masters. You can also watch all the previous episodes of this podcast at Star Wars Card Talk on Instagram. And of course, you can hear us anywhere you listen to podcasts, Apple, iTunes, Spotify, Anchor, wherever. But you can also watch this podcast in video form and actually see me driving. I am driving. I'm in a car and I'm driving. I'm talking Star Wars. On YouTube at Jedi Toy Masters. We have an entire playlist dedicated to this podcast, so please make sure you check it out and check out some of our other videos that we have on there as well. It's back to Star Wars, everybody, and here we are. It's July. You know, we're celebrating freedom. We're celebrating the summer, the warm weather, pool parties and barbecues, and we are just, deep into The Bad Batch. Man, we've been watching The Bad Batch in our house, and it's, we just finished watching the 10th episode, and man, it's like, I can't believe it's been 10 episodes already. They went by so fast. Every episode, even the one, I gotta say, even the ones that are kind of like, every show has its filler episodes, but it doesn't seem like any of these episodes are filler episodes. Every episode so far has had kind of a purpose and a mission. And then, of course, it's the overall arc of the story has been, advancing, little by little. You had the intersection a few episodes ago with the return of Crosshair in his new elite trooper outfit, all black and very sleek, very reminiscent of the Death Trooper, which, my theory here is that I think Crosshair might be, this little group might be the beginning of the Death Trooper squad. It might have been started by, by Crosshair, and who knows, maybe the fact that these elite troopers eventually the Death Troopers look so different than stormtroopers. They seem almost taller and lengthier, more agile, and you don't really understand what they're saying. Maybe they're clones. Maybe they're clones of Crosshair. Maybe they did something there, and maybe we'll find out during the course of the rest of this show. But it looks really interesting how the story is progressing. We're getting a little bit more information about who Omega is. We find out that she's the last clone, as Omega means last, and that Boba Fett was referred to as Alpha. So Alpha is the first unaltered clone, and then Omega is the last clone. Although you can't really say she's unaltered because she does have a lot of traits where she has certain skills that could be part of the programming of the cloning, but also the fact that she's a girl. Obviously the DNA was altered there, so who knows what's in store for her story. And I'm curious, a lot of people, it's been hit or miss with Omega. A lot of people on the internet and the fans, they've been, it's either you love her, well, it's really one of three. You either love her, you're indifferent and you're just like whatever, or you really don't like her. And there is a lot of people out there that don't like this character of Omega. They don't understand why we need a kid here in the mix. And I can understand that argument, but at the same time, I think we need a character like Omega in a story that's so I guess dark, if I can say that. I mean, not that it's not like uberly dark and very sinister, but it's a dark story. I mean, this is a dark time right after the Clone Wars where everything is changing. And this is like right before we get to the emergence of the rebellion. So I think you always need a character that we as the audience can kind of watch the story through their eyes. I think in the original Star Wars you had Luke, but also you had the droids. You had R2 and C-3PO. In the right off the bat in the prequels, you kind of had very young kid Anakin, and then that kind of helped start up that story. But George Lucas always said that, and to this day he always says Star Wars is for kids, and you always need kind of like a way to ground the story so that kids can say, hey, I can follow this, I can track. There's somebody here that's like me that I'm following along with. And that's what Omega is. I think Omega fills that position of following the story through her perspective, through her eyes. She's there. She represents us. She represents the kids watching the show saying, wow, that could be me. I could be hanging out with the Bad Batch and going on adventures and learning and growing and maturing. And that's really what it is. Star Wars really is a story about adolescence and being thrust into adventure and having to deal with it and cope with it and grow and mature with it. I mean, you saw it in Luke. You saw it in Anakin and even in Padme, in the sequel trilogy, which I hate to bring it up, but in the sequel trilogy, you kind of saw Rey kind of grow. Although much could be said about that, and much could be argued about that, because it doesn't seem like there was a lot of growth in the characters of the sequel trilogy. But the original George Lucas formula was this is for kids. And it's about adolescence, growing up, going on an adventure, getting out of your comfort zone, making a difference. And that's what we see with the Bad Batch. They're trying to make a difference. They're trying to help themselves really to survive. But in doing so, they're using their skills for good. Because most of these missions that they've been on have been for good. So that's an interesting thing to see there. That because the question is now, man, like what happens to them? And I said in the beginning, a couple episodes back, that I think the only thing that you can do with the Bad Batch is set them up to be kind of martyrs. I think. During the course of this series, or when they decide to end this Bad Batch show, maybe it's only a one season thing and it'll be done, or maybe it'll come back for another season. But in the end, these characters need to die. They need to sacrifice themselves either for the empire, for the rebels, for the rebellion, or sacrifice themselves so that Omega can live and move on. And the fact that Omega is really young here, she's older than Luke. Luke is basically a baby here, a newborn. And Omega is, I would guess, I don't know, how old can she be? Maybe, 8, 9, 10 years old. She's kind of like Anakin's age when we met him in Phantom Menace. Or maybe she's like a year or two older. So, I won't say she's 8 or 9. 10 would be pushing it, but that puts her like maybe 8 or 9 years older than Luke. So you can make the argument that if she can pop up as an adult, as older, in the Boba Fett show, Book of Boba Fett. She can pop up in Mandalorian. I mean, she can pop up in the Ahsoka show. You never know. So I don't know. Maybe they're setting that character up to be a character that exists, kind of like how they created Ahsoka, and then years later we see her now in live action form. Just like, Rex. Hopefully we'll see Rex. I mean, I'm hoping that we get to see Rex in the Ahsoka series, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of Boba Fett in the Book of Boba Fett and kind of explore that a little bit more, his life and what he's up to, how he escaped, how he survived. It's all interesting. It's all very interesting, and I just hope that they're true to just kind of keeping it fun, keeping it adventure. I know a lot of the big complaints about Star Wars in the Disney era is, sticking in a lot of narratives that are quote unquote, preachy, or trying to push certain agendas and trying to, fit certain criteria, maybe filling in some quotas for certain things that you need to include in stories and media because of the times that we live in now. And I think the thing about Star Wars is that it's timeless. So regardless of, whether when you're watching Star Wars, it should still make sense and be relevant. When George Lucas made A New Hope, the original Star Wars, it was at the tail end of the Vietnam War and the whole idea of empires and, overcoming these type of obstacles of like war and control and power and all these things. But really, at the end of the day, I mean, you look at Star Wars, the Empire is basically the Nazis, and the rebels are kind of like everybody else. Nowadays, we live in a much more cynical world, which is kind of crazy to think, because coming out of the Vietnam War in the late 70s, that was a very cynical time. I mean, I wasn't around, but you can just look at any history information and you can see any documentaries or videos or newsreels of the time. It was a very cynical time of government and military and all that stuff. And I think we're cynical again as a society, but it's almost like a very self-aware cynicism. And I think it pushes out the idea of fantasy and fairy tale and hope and all the ingredients that make Star Wars great. And I think that's what clashes right now and what makes it very tricky as far as writing stories that can be Star Wars in a world that is kind of like not wanting Star Wars, if that makes sense. Although I think Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are master craftsmen as far as doing things that are Star Wars, that look like Star Wars, sound like Star Wars, and give you the feelings of Star Wars. And the Bad Batch is one of those things that I think is writing that line of you have it's continuing the love of Clone Wars, but also pointing us in the direction of the Star Wars that we all grew up on, But enough about Bad Batch. It's been great. I hope there's more episodes to come. I don't know how many episodes this season is supposed to have. And I'm just hoping that it continues. And in other news, we actually got a trailer of some kind for Star Wars Visions, which is kind of like this anthology series of I don't know, it looks like short kind of like short films or episodes of short stories, I should say, of different Star Wars style stories or stories that are in the Star Wars universe, but told from different point of views, different perspectives, different styles. It looks really interesting. Interesting in the sense that it's just really cool. Like, just from an artistic perspective, I think it's really cool. Like, to have all these different types of artists and animators come in and tell different types of stories, Star Wars stories, in different styles and genres and just animation styles and they're different visions. That's the name says it all. It's Star Wars Visions, and these are different visions of Star Wars from different perspectives, different visions. It looks interesting. You know, I don't know how. I mean, it looks like there's a lot of stories. I think there's something like 5 or 6 different stories that they kind of glossed over in this trailer. If you can go to StarWars.com or on YouTube here, Star Wars, you can check out the trailer for that if you haven't. It's interesting. I kind of classify that as like a standalone thing. I mean, that's kind of like when you think about the fact that they dropped Star Wars Droids, the animated show on Disney Plus, and Droids is basically not canon anymore, and I don't think it ever was canon, really. It's just kind of its own thing, its own style. Excuse me. I think that's what this is. This is kind of like its own thing. I don't expect this to be something that connects to Star Wars that we know from the films or even from some of the TV shows, other TV shows that are canon, like, you know, Clone Wars, Bad Batch, Resistance, Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, you know, and then the Andor series that's coming down the pipe, and the Obi-Wan series that's also coming. I don't know that this animated Visions show stories, what have you, are going to be connected. I think it's just going to be its own thing, just its own piece of Star Wars art in this corner of Star Wars. If that makes sense. But what do you guys think? I'd love to find out what you guys think of Star Wars Visions, this trailer, and the idea of what it is. You can hit me up on Instagram at Jedi Toy Masters and let me know. You can also comment below if you're watching this on YouTube. And while you're at it, if you're listening to us on iTunes, write a review, man. You know, let the world know that we're here, that I'm here, driving and talking Star Wars. Not much in Star Wars toy news. You know, it's been kind of quiet as far as toy releases. I mean, it's funny because Hasbro announced so many things for pre-order and releases later on in the fall and then to next year. But it's like, you know, they make these big presentations, but then you have like 6 months of just nothing in the stores. I mean, it's hard to even find things from the last wave, let alone things in the current wave. And now we have to wait like 6 months for the next wave of Star Wars releases, Hasbro releases, to actually hit stores. You know, this whole pre-ordering nonsense is just getting a little ridiculous. You know, you gotta be quick on the finger, quick to click. Over at places like Walmart.com, which is kind of ridiculous when you try to pre-order something on there. And, you know, they had the Elite Crosshair 6-inch figure like just pop up recently, and as soon as it went up, pre-orders were already sold out. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And the same thing happens at Hasbro Pulse. And I know I'm preaching to the choir, and this is like the never-ending struggle of this nonsense, but you know, it just gets so frustrating when you can't go to a store and actually see stuff on pegs. You know, I'm also a big G.I. Joe fan, and I know there were some retro figures that came out recently. There was a Cobra Trooper and I think Stalker, the G.I. Joe Stalker figure, and in the retro packaging, and they're 3 3/4 inch figures. Only found at Walmart, by the way, and yet I've been to like 2 or 3 Walmarts and over the last month, and nothing. I don't see anything related to that. Last month I did find like a Cobra Fang, the little helicopter, which is kind of cool. My wife and the boys kind of picked it up for me for Father's Day. I thought it was a cool little gift. Although they're playing with it more than me. But that's it. That's all you see. Masters of the Universe toys, it's like you see them, very hit or miss. The 2 Walmarts that I frequent most have literally had the same He-Man and Skeletor figure on the pegs for months. Nothing else, just that. I went to Walmart a few days ago. Nothing. They have a few Dark Sabers, and then they have the Mission Fleet, some Mission Fleet toys, which we are just not into at this point. And then they had one vintage collection Admiral Akbar. That's it. And it wasn't even the Star Wars section. It was like on the other side, like near like Power Rangers, just randomly on a peg. It's sad. It's sad. The state of the toy industry, and just, it's sad because, you know, my boys, they love going on toy hunts. They love going to the store and kind of window shopping and checking things out. And I always got to tell them, I'm like, you know, we'll see what they have, but you know where Daddy gets most of these things, and they say, yeah, Daddy orders them. But that's like, you have to order stuff. It's ridiculous. But what are you going to do? What can we do? How can we send a message to the toy industry, to Hasbro, and really just Hasbro, because they're the ones creating all the Star Wars toys, basically. How do we let them know, hey, can you please just stop messing around and send some inventory to like the stores? Like, let's put some toys on the shelves at Target and Walmart. Like, those are the big two that you need to keep stocked, because we don't have Toys R Us anymore. And not everybody wants to be having to order things online at like Big Bad Toy Store and Entertainment Earth and Hasbro Pulse, and like, we want to go to a store too and see stuff. And we don't want to use like all these other third-party apps and websites that you have to be able to track down SKU numbers and decode UPC codes and try to figure out when the next shipment is coming to what store. And it's ridiculous. I mean, yeah, there's the thrill of the hunt, the toy hunt, but it's nice to actually go to a store and see stuff and like not return empty-handed every single time, because there's literally nothing on the shelves. It's disheartening, and it's insulting to the fans, you know, because it's not like we're asking you to please sell me stuff. Like, I want to buy stuff, sell it to me, and the toy industry is like, no, we're only going to sell a few, and it's only going to be, we're going to make you all fight for them. I mean, it's ridiculous. And don't even get me started on the scalping. Oh, good Lord. But anyway, I digress. Star Wars car talk. I'm sorry that I'm yawning so much today. I'm driving home and I am tired. The reason we've been kind of MIA on the videos and here on the podcast is, you know, it's been tough. You know, we just moved, and I'm a commuter now. I've been commuting now to work, and yeah, it's tough. But we're hoping to get back on schedule, and as things pick up with Star Wars, and in the news and in the TV and Disney Plus and all that, and hopefully maybe get to go on some toy hunts soon, we will have more to talk about. But in the meantime, guys, thank you so much for listening. Again, let's start a conversation on Instagram. Hit me up at Jedi Toy Masters. Let's start a conversation here in the comments. Bad Batch, what do you think? Star Wars Visions, what do you think? The state of Star Wars toys, what do you think? Let's talk. Star Wars car talk. But guys, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and remember,
The Force will be with you, always.